Okay, thank you everybody. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I'd also like to pay my respect to elders past and present. So thank you very much for joining us for this fireside chat today. We're going to talk about some of the things very fitting on Builders Day, how we can help our engineering teams be more effective, deliver more effectively. But before I introduce our panelists, we've got a quick word from our sponsor.
AWS and Buildkite know that innovation requires freedom. Freedom to try. Freedom to iterate. Freedom to innovate. Our platform unblocks developer teams, enabling them to build, test, package, deploy, and release software the way they want. Any language, any architecture, anywhere, at any scale. Buildkite on AWS. Unblocking developers, unleashing innovation.
Cool, thank you. So my name is Dave Coombs. I lead a team of solution architects, and we work with software businesses within Australia and New Zealand. I'm delighted to be joined by three leaders from software-driven companies that work with us both in New Zealand and internationally. So I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves, who they are, a little bit about your company and what your role is.
G'day, I'm Keith. I'm the CEO and founder of Buildkite. Fancy title. I am an engineer. I've been doing engineering for most of my life. Dropped out of high school to work on Macromedia Flash. Anyone knows what it is? A lot of ActionScript 3.0. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I've always been interested in building developer tools. You know, I was always ended up being the Jenkins guy. A lot of companies, and one day I thought maybe I could take a crack at building a slightly better one. And so I did that, and it's gone out pretty well. Buildkite's been in business for just over a decade now, and we power some of the highest performing teams in the world, like Uber, Airbnb, Pinterest, Safetyculture, and Rippling, and having a blast building tools for developers. So that's me.
Hello everyone, my name's Roman. I'm staff software engineer at Rippling, the one mentioned before. We build HR software, and I lead the team responsible for our CI, CD, and pretty much everything DevX that someone else is not responsible for. I've been in the DevX space for the last 8 years or so, in one way or another. I've done DevX at above mentioned Uber before, so I know the challenges they are facing, very similar to what we do. And that's pretty much all about me so far.
Yeah, good afternoon everyone. So I'm Joe, I'm the Infrastructure and Data Stores Engineering Manager for Safetyculture. I've been in technology and engineering for 16 years, similar to Keith saying like he's been an engineer. I'm the same, although I've come from a different background. Rather than software engineering, I'm more hardware and data centers and VMware and Veeam and all those companies that made you get into a freezing cold data center at 2 o'clock in the morning to change RAM sets and everything like that. So what we provide people is a fully operational platform that's geared towards saving people's lives, frontline workers predominantly, and being powered by AWS and Buildkite has certainly helped us achieve that, but we want more. We want more lives saved, so that's us.
Brilliant, thanks folks. So the team that I work with, we work with a very broad range of software-driven companies. We have ad tech, we've got reg tech, we've got line of business applications, we've got security applications. It's the variety of it is what I suppose makes the job interesting. But the common theme across all of them is that most of those companies, or all of those companies I would say, a large part of their success is based on their ability to take the ideas from their product people and get them into the hands of their customers as quickly and securely and reliably as possible. Now, there's been a broad range of research recently that demonstrates how important speed is. We say at Amazon, we say speed matters in business. There's the DORA metrics. There's McKinsey's that done studies around developer productivity. I think it's fairly uncontroversial now to say that your ability to deliver software at speed is correlated with the success metrics that many, particularly digital companies have. So the numbers here, you see revenue or innovation or shareholder return. Any of these metrics are often based on the ability to deliver software at speed, which is fantastic. But for anyone who's worked in software, and I've been in software for 25 years, you'll know that often it's an environment which is fraught with friction. So all the things that slow developers down, all the things that get in their way. So Keith, I'd like to start with you. I mean, you're in a fairly unique position, I think, that you lead a software-driven company, but you were in the business of creating tooling that unblocks other developers. So you talk to a broad range of companies. So do these kind of ideas resonate with you? What are the kind of patterns that you see occurring around teams' effectiveness?
Oh yeah, I mean these numbers are fancy business numbers, but they're pretty real. We talk a lot about speed, but the way I like to think about it, it's more around iteration velocity. So like how long, if someone says, oh hi, like your product needs this button, like how long does it take for you to get that button onto production? That's kind of the scope of time that I look at. Because the faster you can take that customer feedback and get it onto production, the better your product's going to be. And if you've got processes where it takes weeks, months to get stuff out to customers, all your competition's going to just sort of leave you behind. And so that's how like a lot of these new businesses are doing. Like new startups, they do really, really well because they can just move significantly faster than the incumbents and who's already building stuff. So we spend a lot of time thinking about the act of like writing a piece of code and getting it onto production and the time in which it takes to do that. So we spend a lot of our time thinking and obsessing over that particular workflow. But yeah, these numbers they're pretty real. They're pretty real. And the hard thing is these numbers are generally not like they're not visible to a lot of organizations, and we find that the best engineering teams on the planet are the ones where the executives, all the way up to the top, like the board of directors, give a shit about this stuff. Because if you're just like an engineer going, oh, we're going to do this, need this thing, and if no one's willing to listen, then you're never going to get anywhere. So those organizations that truly embrace, like we have one customer who said they need to be able to go from dev to prod in 5 minutes. That's all, 5 minutes. It was mandate, with a capital M. So that influenced a lot of the decision-making processes. And now this company's IPO'd and one of the biggest companies in the world. But it came from the top, because it was a core part of the business's strategy is to have fast iteration velocity.
Cool. And are there common things that you see stopping customers achieve that?
Are there common things that stop them? Visibility is the big one. Like imagine for a second that you are a tradie building a house, like you're a site manager, maybe using Safetyculture to like build a house, and you see all your tradies, their hammers breaking every 5 minutes. You'd be like, why the hell are we going these shitty hammers? Like, let's get some good ones, because you'd see a pile of hammers on the floor. When you're building software, there's no visibility into the things that don't work very well, because we have retry loops, and things don't work, you just try again, you just hit the retry button, you just pay some more Amazon compute to do it again or whatever. And so a lot of the time the inefficiencies are sort of hidden behind like reliable infrastructure, I guess, or fault-tolerant infrastructure. And so I think that, but the best engineering teams not only look at stuff that works, but also the stuff that doesn't work. Like how much time are we wasting in things that just don't make sense. And the teams that focus on that stuff that doesn't work quite well are the ones that I feel like do really well.
So look, Joe, I'd like to ask you, I know part of your role is to create a platform where other product engineers can work with and deploy into. So, you're a force multiplier for effectiveness within your organization, but what are the things that you're doing, or what are the things that are slowing teams down, and what are the things you've had to put in place to help teams move more quickly?
Yeah, I mean, Safetyculture is at that stage of its lifespan where we're now classified as a scale-up. And as a result, you have all those complexities that you built in as a startup. Like getting things from development to production in 5 minutes is a great metric to hold people accountable to. To us, sometimes that involves people cutting corners, and getting as quickly as they can to production, which then causes incidents, which then causes developer unhappiness, which is a blocker sometimes. For us, the friction point tends to come around the priorities that teams have internally, as well as from that have driven top down or bottom up. So we tend to find probably back-end engineers out in this field here, and they are caught in the middle of priorities being bought by an infrastructure team at a foundational level, saying we need you to move to these latest platforms to remain reliable, remain resilient, and then your product-led growth is coming from top down, or the product department saying, we need new buttons in the application and new features. So they have to constantly be juggling, which sometimes causes the velocity to slip, depending on what they're having to unravel. But at Safetyculture, like the customer theme that's all around us drives the predominant of most teams to realize where that priority is. We need to be saving those lives, which I spoke about earlier on, protecting people, protecting frontline workers. One of the key things that our CEO likes to say is that one person dies every 15 seconds on a frontline worker job. If we affect that, then we're doing our jobs well. That's key to making sure that you have that mentality when you go into a room about prioritizing the workload to prevent that friction.
Cool. And then Roman, so you've worked at some of the highest profile engineering companies in the world, and now you're at Rippling. What are the things that you're doing to try and improve the speed of your development teams, reduce the friction points, help the product teams that you support be more effective?
To understand where friction is in Rippling, you need to understand a little bit more about what we do. So technically, we're kind of like medium-sized company by now, but if you scratch under surface, we operate a lot more like 10 startups in a trench coat, because we provided different products in HR space that need to all work together, but also work independently, because a given customer might only need payroll and nothing else. And this maps to how teams operate, where every team who delivers a product wants to move very fast, but also really doesn't want to be broken by other teams. And this is the biggest conflict between, like, hey, I want everyone else to run all the tests, and I want myself to only run the tests that I need. And our job is to balance both of these and make sure that developers are not blocked, and at the same time make sure that our production is safe and we don't have production incidents. One of the things we do in a CI team is, like, if push is blocked for like hour plus, we'll just open incident. Like, push not happening for 1 hour is enough for us to treat it as an incident, drag necessary people in, being it a product team that's blocking things or anything else. So that's the big source of friction for developers. Like, if they can't push to production, not in 5 minutes, we have a little bit more time that we take, but we are really focusing to take the time down from what we have right now.
Right, yeah, you mentioned a really good point. A lot of the teams that we work with that have that hardcore mantra about committing to velocity, they often have internal, lots of different names, sometimes developer experience team, infrastructure platform teams, developer velocity teams, developer experience teams. They all come in different flavors, but they all generally have an SLA for, an internal SLA on being able to push to production. And they are on call just like any other product engineer. So if main is broken for a period of time, someone's going to get a call in the middle of the night and say, hey, it's just not working, you should probably come sort it out. And then they do little retros and incident reports, just like you would any other production infrastructure. So they treat their internal platform and their internal developers as customers of their own gear. And I think it's a real healthy way to operate a team like that.
Cool. I mean, that kind of brings up another point. I know, Roman, we were talking yesterday. I know you've invested a lot of time around the kind of cost effectiveness of the platforms that you've built. Could you talk a little bit about some of the ways that you've been able to create developer experience platform, which is also cost effective?
Yeah, one of the big problems, we're not only trading off safety for velocity, we also paying cost for both of them. Because we can get both safety and velocity if we just throw infinite money at it, but we don't have infinite money. And we are looking for the ways how we can cut costs without impacting velocity or safety. And one of the big things was using auto-scaling groups, making sure that we only have as many agents as we need right now and not a single more. It was switching to spot instances. Right now it's wandering AWS regions, finding where we can get the cheapest spot instances that fit our criteria. And all of this has operational costs on us. but we find that it's like still worth the cost, and it allows us to run like 20% tests. Otherwise, we'll be able to do with the budget, make builds a bit faster than we'll otherwise be able to do with the budget, and kind of like find that balance where everyone is happy, including finance.
Yeah, because what happens is when you reduce the cost, like it's not like finance is saying, well, you spent $100,000 less, so your budget's going to be $900,000. Like they don't reduce the budget permanently, right? You get to move that money somewhere else and spend it on other things, right? Like running more tests or doing other things.
Yeah, well, the sad truth about CI is like entire business, like it goes up and to the right, except it's like costs. Because like people keep adding more tests, we keep hiring more people, and unless we actively reduce that cost, whatever budget we have, we're going to blow it. So like we need to stay within our budget, and we need to actively address it.
It's I probably could talk another 30 minutes about testing, but no one ever removes tests. Just keep adding them. Yeah. And so then it's always going to go up, and it's a tough problem to solve.
So I want to talk a little bit, so we want our engineers and our builders to be productive, but a lot of customers, and we say this, Amazon, people are our biggest asset, and we want our builders to be happy as well. So developer sentiment is very important. Again, a whole bunch of studies will demonstrate why engaged and happy developers will generally produce better outcomes, and I think anyone who's worked in software know that kind of flow state where you feel like you're solving problems really effectively, and the tooling supports that. That's you, Keith. What do you think developers really care about? Beyond like ping pong tables and catered lunches, what are the things that developers really want?
Well, Buildkite's fully remote, so there are no ping pong tables. But I think, for me, it's about intrinsic motivation. Think back for a second, all the jobs you've ever quit. Think back to the job that you quit. Why did you quit? A bunch of reasons. Some of them was manager was a jerk. Or like I learned this new language and I want to go play with this new language in this new company, or I didn't like the culture. And I think what you find is that people generally quit. They don't quit jobs; they quit cultures. When you kind of think about it. And so if you hold that in your heart and keep that in mind, what is it about the engineering culture? If you want to retain engineers, because what's the stat? Like when you hire an engineer, it takes like 6 months to onboard them or something like that. There's some statistics, I'm sure Gartner has spoken about it. But there's some number where it takes for you to, once you've hired an engineer, to get them fully onboarded and know the systems and can start doing their job. And so if you lose someone, it's a real pain in the ass because you have to sort of go through that whole process again. And when you're in the scale-up phase and you're hiring lots of engineers, it's a tough problem to solve. So, I mean, developers, the heart of a developer is they like building things and they like seeing people use the things. Especially in our industry, if you don't want anyone to use your thing, you're probably just like a researcher or someone, someone in academia as an engineer. But most of the people that come to Amazon, I guess, like the engineers here, like building things and have people use them. And the satisfaction of someone using something that you built and like, yeah, they use my stuff, how cool is that? Or check this app out, I made that button, so cool, Mom, look at this. That's what they want. They want to just be able to build cool things and have people use them. But like again, if everyone's got shitty hammers and they're breaking every 2 seconds, they're going to get very frustrated. They're like, I can't do this thing. Like I entered this industry to build cool stuff and have people use it. If I can't actually get it out to customers in time, or even like the other thing that engineers kind of love is that they want to be able to see the customer's reaction to things, because quite often support or product people get to feel the praise. But I remember one time I was at a conference and Buildkite was very small at that point, well maybe about 10 people, and we added a retry button to jobs. It was a pretty big deal for us, retry button. And someone came up and hugged me and they're like, thank you for adding the retry button. Ironically, I don't like the retry button anymore because I feel like it propagates bad behavior. No retry, actually there's a way to turn the button off now, ironically. But just that was that motivation I was looking for. That was the close of the loop for me. I built a thing, someone used it, it was awesome. I got the dopamine hit, let's do it again. Gaming has figured this out. Gaming, when you play a video game, points go up, I win. So free lunches, cool. Ping pong tables, cool. But just at the end of the day, someone's using my shit. Yeah. That's kind of the thing.
I mean, it just ties in, I think, to a point you were alluding to earlier before, Joe, around kind of company purpose. And safety culture is a hugely purpose-driven company. I mean, you talked about it earlier, but how does that kind of manifest itself in the engineering culture, or how are you trying to inculcate that?
Yeah, I mean, look, you can't turn a corner in safety culture without seeing your customers and who you're affecting. We have 2 customer-themed meeting rooms on each of the floors. You can come into the office and go to our IKEA cafe, and we've got a Rio Tinto room full of like dust on the floor and massive tires everywhere. And it just kind of like, you know, sometimes you'll walk into the room and it'll be completely oblivious to it because you might be having a bad day, but sometimes you'll clock it. You'll be like, ah, yeah, this is kind of cool that we're in these meeting rooms. And I mean, don't take away the retry button. I think you might get hit at the next.
In fact, we made it automatic for you as well.
Yeah, okay, good stuff.
So someone else can hit it.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, look, I've got to be really careful because a couple of my engineers in the audience. There's also one person that I lost to an Atlassian last year. He's in the audience. So if he left me for those reasons, it was actually quite a hard moment for me to lose that guy. But for me, that constant feedback cycle between what we're there to provide, what I'm there to provide for these guys. We work in a servant leadership methodology. And if I'm not trying every day to think of something that can improve my developer lifespan and how long they're with me for or how quickly they develop, then I'm really not doing my job. And one thing that I've noticed, especially at Safety Culture, is you strive for great, you're normally in good, but if you get complacent in good, you're going to be bad within 6 months because the constant evolution of developers, what they need to thrive. You talk about like delivering something and showing something. If one of my team says like I've done this, and he walks into a one-to-one and he says I'm really like happy about this, and he shows me, and then I say that's cool, you know, and I'm really, you know, downplay it. That person's going like straight away. That, you know, like you talk about people being the biggest part of it, but the influence that I have in that moment, in that sentiment, in that statement, if I'm having a bad day and I bring it out on them, wow, that's going to just cause a sea of people leaving. So yeah, I'm very fortunate I've got good people that work for me at the moment, and we've got that developer sentiment going and that feedback cycle. Sometimes they call me out, which is great. It's always good to hear. Sometimes when I'm doing, apologies for the French, being a dick, but they certainly keep me on my toes, and hopefully what I deliver them means that they can develop more.
So we are 23 minutes in, and we haven't touched on GenAI yet, but anyone who's at the keynote today, you'll see that, you know, GenAI is a hot topic, or one of the biggest topics in the summit. It is genuinely going to transform a lot of areas of business that we work in, and I think most interestingly, one of the areas that adopted it most early was software engineering, so with things like coding assistants. There's some statistics here, so we're preparing now for an avalanche of code. The amount of code which is being generated either through coding assistants or low-code platforms is significant. So let's ask Roman, I mean, what's been your experience about finding a way to bring GenAI and code generation into your environment in a way which is sustainable?
Yeah, there's like obvious like code assistance tools that just allow you to like be slightly faster. That is like just a little bit better autocomplete. That's like everyone's using, but that wasn't much of a load on us. Where else we found GenAI useful is to unblock developers, because like they are our customers, so we have support channels for them. We have limited amount of engineering, and like we are monitoring them, but sometimes we're already resolving some other issues, and some of these blockers are very easy to remove. So we just added a bot that is able to solve like very common problems quickly. And we've noticed like people just getting their answer, like instead of waiting for us to reply in 10 minutes, switching context back, they just immediately get their answer like, oh yeah. And the answer is like not like, you know, GenAI hallucinations. The answer is like, please read this wiki and then this wiki. So it's like the real content is written by us, but we just using GenAI to quickly identify where to send the user and like what they need to do.
And Joe, what about it? Safety culture? Have you found it?
Yeah, I mean, from a coding assistance perspective, we've implemented tools like Copilot that have certainly helped us. I think the biggest downside to it is hiding people's growth because they're relying on tools like that. ChatGPT, go on there, bang, how do I do this? And suddenly the junior engineer looks like a senior engineer, and you know, like if you're not paying attention close enough, you can promote incorrectly and promote the wrong behaviors from people. And there's a lot of copying and pasting now going on between developers that might have done it 5 years ago, and when I started in technology, reading the manual was the thing. Like you didn't have Google to do all of this, and so engineers back then would get annoyed that people would be Googling the answer. And these days, people who have developed stuff and thought about the code and structured it correctly are getting annoyed by the people that are just copying and pasting their code or going to ChatGPT and coming up with that. It has its pros and it has its cons. I certainly think that it's improved some things for our company, but we are still on the fence of whether it's really improved kind of like that. Yep. Innovation side of it, I think that's when it starts lacking, because people start losing that creative side of their mind. So yeah, that's where it's at for safety culture.
Yeah, cool. And Keith, I mean, your whole company is around creating tooling to support software development processes. How do you think GenAI and the associated changes are going to change the tool chain, are going to change the processes, the way we think about software development? What are the things that you see coming, or the themes?
If we can just use it to fuck off linters, that would be nice. I think linting is like the most annoying part of. Sorry, I shouldn't have used the F word, but I just don't like linters. Your code must be exactly two spaces. You use the wrong curly bracket. There's a trailing comma. Come on, you know what I mean. Also, using it just to help with statically typed languages. I mean, I'm a Rubyist. I like to write my code like English a little bit. So I'm sort of used to writing sort of naturally sounding code. But I dabbled with Java when I was doing my housemate's uni assignments because he didn't want to do them. But I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. That's fun. So many curly brackets in Java, so many curly brackets. So I assume if Copilot can just get rid of the curly brackets, that'd be nice. I mean, it's going to help. It's going to do some really cool things. I can see why engineers, though, are cautious about it, because as an industry, we've just come off the blockchain hype, and that's sort of gone now, and now it's all about large language models and generative AI. So of course, there's going to be some skepticism. But if you just close your eyes for a second, think about what happens in a world when it's more prevalent. Like, what's this going to do to code bases? Code bases are going to be you're not going to know who's written what. Like git blame is a thing. Is it going to be like that for AI? AI is going to take ownership of some of the lines of code? I'm not quite sure what it's going to be. But one thing that I do know what's going to happen is more code's going to be written. There will be more lines of code to deal with. If you look at any large language model or generative AI demo, it's always, look at it, can add unit tests. It can add so many more unit tests. I've never seen people excited about adding tests in my life. And my whole business is running tests. So it's good news for me, I guess. But what's going to happen, though, is we're going to move to a situation where there's just more code to deal with. More code requires more compute. We're going to have a quantity over quality problem, I think, very, very quickly. And then there's going to be a breed of new tools to help figure out what's good and what's not. Like, can we optimize this? Can we optimize that? Because one thing that GenAI can't do yet, which, of course, it's the worst it's ever going to be today, it can't see patterns between the code bases yet. Like, you can use this function because it kind of does this. It can't really do refactoring all that well, but it can, try to follow pretty good. But it's going to get better. It's going to get significantly better. There's just going to be more apps and more code. And I guess the more meta feedback I have is that it's good for the industry, because it means that people can enter engineering that maybe couldn't have done it before. And maybe some people can build things that they couldn't have built before because they didn't have the skills. And if generative AI and LLMs can help get them to what they want to build faster, then I'm all for it.
Fantastic. So look, Keith, Roman, Joe, I just want to thank you all for sharing your thoughts on this. I know Buildkite have got a booth here if you want to go and talk to Buildkite and talk some more to Keith about how kind of unblocking every developer is their goal. But can you please join me in thanking our panelists for sharing their thoughts?